I'm Shannon Elliott. On today's episode, we'll be talking about transitional age youth, or TAY, in the mental health system. I have two distinguished guests with me. To my immediate right is Letty Lennis, who is a POCC TAY founding member that's full of Consumer Champions Youth Committee member. She's a full-time student at California State University East Bay, double majoring in psychology and biology. She's also a member of the TAY Advisory Board and a very active youth leader within the Alameda County community. And she will also be leading the upcoming TAY initiative projects for Alameda County. And to my far right is Rachel Bryant, hi, who is the TAY coordinator for Alameda County Behavioral Health Care Services. She's the adult partner for the TAY Youth Initiative. She facilitated the Youth Advisory Board for 3 years and coordinates administrative aspects of the TAY system of care within Alameda County. And as a side note, she's also an MFT student at the Cal Institute for Integral Studies in San Francisco. So thank you both and welcome. So I'm thinking just to start us off, you could both talk about the respective organizations that you represent.
So I'm with Alameda County Behavioral Health Care Services, which is, the county-wide system of care that provides services, not just for transition age youth, but for all behavioral health care clients across the county. But I do work for the TAY system of care, and it's a pretty new system of care since the introduction of the Mental Health Service Act. There's been funding to actually care for this age group, and TAY are 16 to 24 years old in Alameda County. Prior to that, young people were either treated in the children's system of care or the adult system of care. So now for the first time, they have their own unique services because they're not kids and they're not quite older adults yet either. So it's a really exciting time in behavioral health care services.
I work for PEERS, which is a nonprofit organization in Alameda County, and I also work very closely with POCC, and that's how we kind of created POCC TAY. And how it first started was when I first became a member, I got really into it because of all the stuff that I can relate to, but I also saw that there wasn't a particular space where I would feel comfortable talking about my issues because no one was really my age. And so then I advocated with Alameda County to create a POCC TAY, and that's how it kind of grew from there. And then PEERS kind of was supported on that one too. So that's how we all are connected.
I just want to give Letty a lot more credit than she gave herself, because she actually won a huge award last year through the Mental Health Association. You were like the Youth of the Year. And so she's really a pioneer in TAY leadership and empowerment in the mental health care system. She's also a founding member of the TAY Advisory Board. So I just wanted to add that.
And maybe you guys could both elaborate a little bit on why it's so important for TAY to be served as its own group, as opposed to just lumping them with younger or older groups, and kind of what TAY is really, what it's all about in general.
From like the administrative standpoint, as I was saying, that age group, 16 to 24 years old, they're not children, so they were being, prior to us receiving funding to create a special system of care, they were sort of inappropriately being served through the children's system of care, because they're not quite kids, you're a young adult. And then the adult system of care really wasn't meeting the unique needs of, young adulthood either. So it's really important, and maybe later we can give some more examples of like what it feels like, to just be in that sort of in-between space when you're receiving services. So from that standpoint, it's really important to look at this age group as unique.
I think like TAY is really important because it's a difficult, very difficult time, and I think we can all go back and remember the time when we were like 16 to 25. I'm actually in that bracket right now. So that's the time where you're not really set with your identity, you don't know what you want to do in life, you're actually not really comfortable in, just going out and doing things, you don't really have the credit, you don't have the stability. So this is the time where we're all kind of fluctuating in life, and to deal with a mental health issue, it puts so much more pressure on you. And just going out there and telling your friend, hey, I have this issue that I'm dealing with, makes it that much more difficult. And especially if you are in a hospital at a certain age, you get stuck with adults, and then you kind of feel like, wow, is this really my life? Is this really where I'm going to end up at? And then if you're in a child's side, you're kind of like, oh my God, I should be doing something with myself because I'm way too old to be doing this. So you have no comfort zone. So I thought, like, when we started building this whole TAY initiative and this whole TAY advocacy group, it's really important because we actually have an identity. We actually started to grow ourselves. And especially, you know, when people ask me, so, you know, what do you do? And it's kind of like, you know, I do this, I empower youth, and I also I'm working somewhere where I'm comfortable being me, and I'm being respected of no matter what's going through. And then I also think it's important when it comes to, when we look at like students and then people that are dealing with mental health issues in the TAY system, because that's the time where you get cut off your insurance, your parents' insurance, and then also you can't afford your own insurance. So therefore you're going without medication if you need it, you're going without your doctor if you need it. So if you're low income, you don't really have the money to pay to help yourself. And, you know, and then also, you know, going to the school system and facilities and saying, hey, I have this issue, is a whole new experience, because now you have to start all over if you have the insurance that the school provides. So that means that you're going to end up starting all over again, and that's, for me, that was really uncomfortable to be like, hey, so my insurance got cut off with my parents, so now I have to come here, and this is my life in 20 minutes. So it's a really difficult time for a lot of people.
Yeah, I just want to add and acknowledge that it's hard to be a young adult in the Bay Area. I think in the world, period, but it's a very expensive place to live, you know, and I think now young adults are competing with people my age and older for the same jobs because the economy is so depressed right now. All of the things that Letty mentioned as well. And then I think that there's a youth culture that, frankly, people are afraid of young people, you know, like they don't, where do our young adults have to go to really express themselves and to feel safe? You know, as programs are being cut, there just aren't a lot of youth development opportunities. There aren't a lot of safe places to gather. And as Letty was saying, like just being able to be yourself, like I don't think as a community that we're doing all that we can do, and it's not because we're not good intention. Like sometimes it just comes down to funding, and so yeah, I think it's really hard to be an adult, a young adult in the Bay Area for all of those reasons. And my response, or what we're trying to do, is to just embed youth across the board, not only in the mental health care system, but just to give them voice in the community so that people aren't so afraid. It's like the images you see of youth on the media are just so negative that, you know, you might judge a young person by the way they're dressed or what you assume about them and not really know all the wonderful things that they're doing in life and what their struggles are. So I just want to acknowledge that for young people, that it's a hard time all the way around, like not really fitting in, as Letty said, anywhere.
Yeah, and you just mentioned those struggles on the part of youth. You both touched on sort of some broad concepts. I'm wondering if there's anything TAY struggle with on a daily basis that is just recurring, that doesn't seem to go away, that's just kind of a nagging thing that they have to get up in the morning and just overcome until night, and then the next day it starts again.
Well, for me, it's kind of like you really don't have, I feel like I don't have a stable life. I feel like I wake up, I go to work, but I only work part-time, so I don't have enough money to do anything else besides pay my bills and then go to school, and then finals, and then my friends occasionally, and then you're just, it's so stressful to not have that, because realistically, if you don't get an education, then you really don't achieve as high as you would like. And then for me, education is really important, so I would like to achieve that. But it has become a huge struggle to the point where you can have breakdowns here and there, and it's really hard keeping it to yourself and not sharing it with your friends. Sure. And also sharing that with your job. Hey, so I'm having a final, and you know how finals can get. Can I get the week off? And fortunately, I do work with an organization that works with me. But you know, that's a fortune that I have. But what about those that don't have that fortune? Which is a lot. Yeah. I mean, I know a lot of my friends have had to work through finals, and I've worked through finals before. And like I said, I'm very fortunate to work with an organization that's willing to work with me during finals. But it's a really competitive field that we're working in school. If you don't keep your grades up, you get kicked out. If you don't keep your grades up, your financial aid goes away. If you're lucky to get financial aid nowadays. Mm-hmm. And you don't make enough money to do anything, and mm-hmm. you're pretty much looking for a cheap place to live. And realistically, I can't even afford to rent my own apartment. I live with my boyfriend's parents. So that's kind of like my situation. Yeah, I work so hard at what I do, but yet I have nothing to show for it because we're all struggling. And, you know, dealing with the struggles I deal with, you know, with my mental health, it puts that much more pressure to kind of try to be perfect in front of other people without them noticing that you go through all these different kinds of struggles. So financially, emotionally, everything you can think of, it's that much more pressure when you're in the mental health system. You know, just trying to keep that perfect image that realistically does not exist.
Right.
So.
Yeah, I totally agree with Letty. It's like a double whammy. As I was mentioning earlier, like the pressure that young adults are under for all the things she said, economically, emotionally, and when you have mental health diagnosis or symptoms, it's like just another label. Like there's already this label on youth culture that they're bad or they're going to hurt us or, you know, they're up to no good. Like there's this suspicion of youth. So that's one stigma that I think young adults deal with. And then if there's a mental health issue, like Letty started expressing, like you have to keep that really under. It's rare that you have the opportunity to really talk about the way you're feeling and get the support that you need to be successful in school and at work, because you're afraid if you actually are honest about, you know, having a mental health sick day or time or space just to take care of yourself. Yeah. Like this culture just doesn't really support that. And I think also young people are just starting to gain experience in how like the big bad world works too. You know, they're not as seasoned as someone much older yet. They're expected to perform the same way. Like I said, they're competing with people my age and older for the same work. There are so many expectations are placed on them, yet you know, they don't always have the supports that they need to be successful. And I think the example of school is really, really a good example. So more specifically, like someone who maybe has to be hospitalized in the middle of the semester, like everything falls apart. All their hard work, they may end up with Fs or incompletes. They may not know how to get back in school. And, you know, Letty, you're a college student, so maybe you could talk about like what that's like and, you know, some of your friends, what they've said, like what that's like.
Yeah, I mean, I've had a friend that actually went through the same thing that I went through, that in the middle of it was actually a semester system at the time, now in the quarter system, but it was in a really emotional time. It was more of like family issues on top of, you know, my personal issues. And then, so I actually had to end up dropping all my classes because I was in such a struggle time. I mean, if I can put it in an image for you, it was just really blurry. I couldn't really know what to do. My life was falling apart. I had to give my responsibilities to my boyfriend, and then, you know, realistically, my family's not really supportive per se when it comes to me having these types of issues. So I had to drop out my classes and receive all W's. And I was lucky enough that the teachers gave me W's instead of F's or incompletes, so I can, you know, get my financial aid going again. But it seriously took me a whole semester to even realize that this was really happening. And not only that, but you have to beg financial aid to give you your financial aid back, and you have to petition it, and it's a paperwork after paperwork, and that itself can be more overwhelming. That can lead you back to square one. And you know, also look at the place that you're living. What if you forgot to pay your rent? You're getting kicked out. You know, unfortunately, I've never had an apartment of my own, so I've never had that responsibility. I've never had a place that I can say, this is my house. So I don't know how that feels like, but I've had and kicked out of a bunch of places for not what you would call being in full compliance. So yeah, it's really, really hard, stressful, and a little bit annoying at times that people don't understand. And then if you're not really honest with people, especially the people you're in a relationship with, it makes it that much harder, and it just makes it seem like it's a personal pattern when it's not even you, it's something else. And it's just like, I really want to go to the doctors, but I don't have insurance. Or I really want to get help, but I don't have insurance. Or, you know, I don't have that support.
So having gone through that yourself, Letty, and Rachel being an advisor to Tay Youth, what advice would you give to those Tay who are struggling, who might be watching this, or maybe a family member who knows a Tay? What would you tell them?
I would definitely say, you know, if you're going to a new school, or you're planning to start a new job, or whatever it is that you're doing in life, you know, I'm not saying that everybody goes to school, but if you are, look into the resources that you can get. Talk to your teachers prior to you taking their classes. Kind of like anticipate something happening. Let them know, look, you know, this is me. I would like this to stay private between me and you, and this is how I would like to work at my own pace. And if you are coming up in finals and you're not fully prepared, I would say talk to your teachers before you give yourself your own, you know, pressure. And then also when it comes to work, I think it's good to look for jobs that will help you, but not all of us have that luxury to be like, well, I'm going to go work for you and then get hired. So I think building that support system, building that support system wherever you plan to get hired, and, you know, making friends with your coworkers, making friends with your boss, and then letting them know. So, you know, if I ever need you to cover my shift, can you? I'll cover you, you cover me, you make good friends, and then kind of that's how I used to do it when I used to work at shift places. And also, like, if you're not wanting to be open, at least, you know, have your other, like, your outside friends, you know, build what I like to call, you know, like a huge interlock. We have like a circle in our friendship. We like to call ourselves a circle where we all know each other's secrets. We don't really go outside of our own circle, and we are all there for us, no matter what. Whether it's 2 o'clock in the morning, we're all there for each other. So we are very interlocked within each other, and building that system is it's really hard, but once you get it, you feel really comfortable. And so, yeah, it's just a lot of support, I feel.
Yeah, I guess before I give some resources in the county, there may be someone watching our show today that can't even imagine the level of functioning that Letty is describing. Like they may just be in a really deep, dark place. So I would encourage, someone who just can't see a way out to trust that it can and does get better. And if you can't establish a circle of support, even just one person, and also to people listening, you can be that one person. You never know what you say to someone or reaching out to someone that you can just feel is really in a stuck place in their life, what a big difference it can make. So I guess I challenge everyone watching today to take some responsibility for our community in that way, and to not judge someone, for where they're at right now. Meet them there, but encourage, folks to take baby steps out of despair. I know it can be really hard. And what I'd like to say is for a young person, one of the challenges is a young person, a youth with a mental illness, diagnosis is not destiny. You get a diagnosis and it can feel like your whole life is over, and you can't imagine yourself one day being the homeless person, on the street talking to yourself. Really, you're 18, your whole life is just opening up, and just because you get a mental health diagnosis doesn't mean that you don't want the same things that all people your age want. You want to go to school, as Letty said, you want to have meaningful work, you want to have relationships with your family and with, a partner. And so all those things really, really are possible, and it's exciting that we're starting to look at young adults in a special way because it makes it more possible for folks to recover. So as far as resources, there is the TAY system of care. You can call Alameda County Behavioral Health Care Services. You can call me at area code 510-567-8128, and that's my direct line if you want to find out more of the TAY specific services. There's also Alameda County Access Line. It's like a clearinghouse for people who either need to just find a therapist or get medication support or, any questions you have. And we also now have a family education resource center, and it really works with families because sometimes parents and siblings don't understand what's going on with someone. They have all these hopes and dreams for their child, and then someone, things fall apart for them and they don't know what it means. They don't know how to really help that young person achieve their goals. So there is that resource as well.
As the next point, I was wondering if you could describe the work TAY is doing within Alameda County and how they're changing the system of care.
We first started, I believe, as an advisory board. So that's how I kind of first got started. I joined an advisory board that we called the Alameda County Advisory Board. And the board was sort of built, in my perspective, to support youth, to help providers, caregivers, give them advice on their caregiving or providing. My first project ever was that Youth Uprising sent us a video that they were going to put on their website about mental health, and it was all talk, and it was really boring. It was just providers going on, and then we all kind of advised them, is this for youth? Really? You really think that I'm going to sit here for 30 minutes and watch this on my time of leisure? No, I'm sorry. And they came back, and then they had dancing, they had poetry, they had youth talking about it, and then they had, they did have the providers talking, but not 30 minutes. And it created to a really nice video clip that they ended up putting on their website. So that's just one example. That was my first project ever with the TAY Advisory Board. And then so we started expanding, we started doing conferences, we started doing workshops, we started doing trainings, we also started doing artwork therapy on the weekend. We just started doing so many different projects that I can't even, on the top of my head, name them all. So we just started going, like little Energizer bunnies. More people started listening to us. Adults started getting interested in what we had to say. And so, you know, that's how the whole Tay initiative, I believe, started to grow, because they started to see that we were interested in working for it, and they were interested in helping us work for it. So from going from, I believe we started like 12 Tay, now we're like, I can't even count because I know so many people now. But
So I know there's some upcoming Tay projects, such as the Innovations Grant and the Tay Initiative. And I was wondering if in our last couple minutes you can kind of describe how people can find out more about that, what that's about, and how Tay can get involved in those efforts.
Well, we have two projects. The grant is we are building a mental health game, board game. And what that's going to be about, it's going to be about building education. It's going to be an educational game, and then getting people involved in a board game where, you know, it's typically for entertainment for people to help educate them on mental health. So it's sort of like a really youthful, fun thing to do that not only youth can enjoy, but adults can enjoy and providers can enjoy as well. And then the initiative, well, they can call Rachel, call myself, maybe you want to...
Yeah, the youth initiative is really great because we've combined some resources, like some natural partners have come together, peers, the pool of consumer champions, and the Tay System of Care and Tay Advisory Board, and sort of pooled our resources together so that we can bring more youth on board and empower them to work on things like systems change and peer support and finding out the information they need about education to become part of our speakers bureau and just to create. Letty was not exaggerating. It's amazing what young adults can do if you give them the chance. Like, my job is so easy. They're so much more creative and know what they want in life, and like, yeah, just be there to support them and give them the space to do it, and amazing things can happen. So to get involved, I'm going to give my number again. Just call me for any of that. And I work at Alameda County Behavioral Health Care Services for the Tay System of Care, and my number is 510-567-8128. And my name is Rachel. Give me a call.
Great. Well, thank you both so much for being here today. Letty sharing your experiences and Rachel sharing yours as well, advising the youth. And thank you all for watching, and we'll see you next time.